Good evening and welcome to the Fort Smith City Board of Directors meeting on this March the 4th of 2025. Keep in mind these meetings are being televised live for our residents who cannot be with us in person this evening. At this time, I'm going to ask Director Kemp to lead the invocation and Director George Cassavas to lead the pledge.
Would you pray with me? Lord, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts for the many blessings that you have given to us. We pray that we will steward them well. And we pray, Jeremiah 29 over this city, that tonight we would seek the peace and the prosperity of the community that you have placed us in. Lord, we pray for your favor, your guidance, and your leadership over all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Rigo.
Here.
Good.
Here.
Kemp.
Here.
George Cassavas. Here. Christina Cassavas.
Here.
Settle.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
We do have a quorum. This time I'll ask if any board member have an item of concern that's not already on the agenda.
I do.
Yes. Director Cassavas.
On July 23rd of 2024, the Board of Directors voted to fund the Make My Move program at $250,000. And in that same meeting, there was also an amendment that said that we'll request a 6-month formal evaluation to be conducted no later than January the 31st of this year. And that never happened, and I'd like to have it tonight. I think this program's a failure. I think we need to cut our losses and move on.
Okay.
So I'm requesting for tonight that we have that formal evaluation that should have been held before the end of January.
Okay. Thank you. This time we'll ask for approval of the February 21st, 2025 regular meeting. I'm sorry.
So moved.
We need a second. Did we get a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
We need to vote on placing it on the agenda now.
Gotcha.
Need what?
We'll have to have a vote to place it on the agenda as item.
4 votes?
That'll be a majority of the board, yes.
Takes 7 to add.
7 to add. Takes 7 of us to add tonight. So.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you recognize.
Is you just want kind of a like where we stand at present and sort of a overall summary? I mean, formal presentation. I mean, there's obviously, if it happens tonight, there's not going to be any kind of slides or anything that tends to be more towards formal. But are you just looking for an update on the current status of the program?
I have a pretty good idea of the status of the program. I don't know if everyone else does, but I would deem the program a failure. I think it needs to be cut immediately. So I'd like to have that discussion. I'm sure that we have that information readily available.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Directors Rigo.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
George Cassavas.
Yes.
Christina Cassavas.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
The motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed. Therefore, the item will be added to the agenda.
Okay. At the end of this agenda this evening? Yes. Okay, thank you. Are there any others? Okay, thank you. This time we'll go to the approval of the February 21st, 2025 regular minute.
So moved.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This time we have a special presentation from our Girl Scout Diamonds of Arkansas and Oklahoma and Texas. They weren't able to be with us the last time, but they're here this evening, so welcome, ladies.
Hi, I'm Nevaeh from Girl Scout Troop 4398. Thank you for having us here tonight. We are halfway through our cookie season with sales ending March 16th. We are excited to share that we have multiple troops around town selling cookies this weekend. To find a booth near you, please visit girlscouts.org. Click Find Cookies and enter your zip code. It's that easy. Selling cookies funds our troops all year. It covers membership fees, travel expenses, badges, and tells me about running my own business. Thank you for your continued support. Hope to see you this weekend at one of our booths.
Thank you.
That was an excellent job. I think she did an excellent job getting up here and speaking to this group. So
Let's give them a
fantastic work.
standing
Yeah.
ovation. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. I already got some, baby. Okay, let me give you these back then.
No, those are supposed to be yours. You can have both of them.
We'll make sure he gets one.
Did you get one? Okay.
It's programs like this that make Fort Smith a very attractive place for families, and we appreciate the Girl Scouts for being with us this evening. Okay. This time we'll go to the first item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 1 is an ordinance amending the master land use plan map, rezoning property, and amending the zoning map for property at 11100 Old Highway 71. Deputy City Administrator Maggie Rice will introduce this item for the board.
Yes, on February 11th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the subject master land use plan amendment and rezoning applications. The property, containing almost 17 acres, is located between U.S. Highway 71 and Old Highway 71 South. The proposed master land use plan amendment to mixed-use residential and zoning to a planned zoning district allows for a mixed-use development with residential and commercial land uses. The applicant requested 4 character areas within the project booklet. Character Area A exclusively allows single family and is adjacent to the existing single family development to the north, as well as Old Highway 71. Character Area B is located interior to the site and adjacent to the future major arterial and permits single family, duplexes, row houses, 0 lot line dwelling units, and commercial land uses. Character Area C permits single-family residences, row houses, 0 lot line units, and commercial land uses, and is located at the northeast corner of the proposed development. Finally, Character Area D is the future 100-foot corridor as shown on the master street plan, and it's on your screen. It's labeled Area D in gray. The applicant submitted a traffic information statement showing the proposed development is within allowable limits on existing streets. The engineering department reviewed and concurred with the assessment. 2 neighborhood meetings were held on February 3rd and February 4th. A combined total of 30 neighboring property owners attended both meetings with concerns regarding size and quantity of buildings, traffic, drainage, density, property values, and potential increase in crime. At the Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Ron Brixey, Mr. Matt Edwards, and Mr. John Alford were present to represent the items. Ms. Elizabeth Allison, Mr. Edward Ward, Mr. Troy Eckelhoff, Mr. Bill Hutchinson, Mr. Jeremy Dutra, Ms. Catherine Davis, and Mr. Joseph Cook spoke with concerns regarding traffic, density, size, quantity of buildings, property values, and drainage. Approximately 31 neighboring property owners were present with the same concerns. The Planning Commission voted 8 in favor with 0 opposed to recommend the master land use plan map and zoning map be amended.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, at this time we will hear from citizens that may want to comment on this item?
Yes, we have John Alford, who is the applicant, so he will be permitted 5 minutes.
Okay. Mr. Alford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Administrator, and members of the board. I know we know each other. My name is John Alford. I've been here many times before. I'm here on behalf of Carrington Creek Holdings, the developer of the proposed development that is to be rezoned and annexed tonight. I want to point out to you something that may be very helpful in your package if you haven't reviewed it. On page 83, there's a tax assessor's parcel map. And this parcel map pretty much lays out where the property is located and where other commercial development and residential development is located. And I do want to point out that as part of the plan, Carrington Creek has proposed that there will be a buffer against the current residential of other single-family residential homes. And as Ms. Rice pointed out on one of the maps that was up previously, there is a street on the master street plan. It is not the developer's street. It is part of the master street plan that will be built sometime in the future that will basically bisect this property, which is about 16 acres that will be developed. I think there's about 2.5 acres that will be the actual street itself that the city will take to develop the extension. I believe that's of Rye Hill Road. And so that street's going to be constructed regardless of the development. So any arguments about additional traffic because of that road, it's not because of our development, it's because that is on the master street plan and will be built by the city at some time in the future. In fact, we are providing the property through an agreement with the city for that area of about 100 feet. In addition, there's a 10-foot buffer on each side of that street for landscaping and irrigation. So there's going to be, some areas that will buffer the street and traffic in our development. The other thing I want to point out is that on this assessor's map, you can see there are really only 5 homes that will have new homes that will back up against them, and those will be single-family residential homes. Currently, there are 2 homes that are shown on this assessor's map that already back up to commercial property. And so one lot on the other end appears to be a vacant lot and probably not buildable because of the configuration of that lot. So those residential homes that exist will have single-family residential homes backed up against them. And as part of the PZD, there will be duplexes and there will be commercial because this new road cuts right through to 71, which is already commercial. And if you also look at this assessor's map aerial, you'll see that there's 2 or 3 commercial buildings already that border this property, and there's a mini storage that borders this property. And then when you get closer to 71, there's a convenience store, fuel station. So there's already commercial development in this area. So the proposal tonight is that the property be rezoned, number one, and if the rezoning is approved, that the property be annexed into the city of Fort Smith. Now, I want to point out, the developer could build duplexes on every bit of this property right now, except that we don't have the connection to the city sewer. So that is the reason for the annexation. But we could develop another plan for sewer on this property and still build 100% of the developable property as duplexes. And I think the main complaint here tonight from other residents is that there's going to be duplexes built. But we've made a great effort to provide a buffer of single-family homes along the existing residential 5 lots and then have an area for duplexes and have an area for commercial as shown on the assessment map. Carrington Creek has been building in this city for many years. They're a well-known developer, and they build a quality product. So I hope that you will approve this, what the Planning Commission has already approved, 8-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I do have 3 that were here just to answer questions, so I'm going to go ahead and call their names, which is Chase Smallwood, I believe with Carrington, Carrie Smallwood, okay, and Joseph Cook. Okay. All right, now these are the ones that will have these are individuals that wish to address the board, and each will have 2 minutes, the first being Bobby Fletcher.
Board members, I'm Bobby Fletcher. I live at 11908 Maple Park Drive. I've lived there for 15 years. On behalf of the residents of Riley Farm, I am asking that the property in question be developed in a manner that blends and complements the existing neighborhood and surrounding property owners. Small single-family homes and high-density duplex developments so do not reflect a cohesive existence with the 412 residential homes, businesses, and neighboring church comprising the Riley Farm area. Riley Farm is asking for consideration of a light commercial development similar to lots with Maple Park in Riley Farm. Uses in these commercial lots consist of a former Cadence Bank, Johnson's Dermatology, Riley Farm Dental, State Farm Insurance, as well as Rye Hill Baptist Church. Our neighborhood and the local business consistently work together respectfully as partners to promote a safe and prosperous community. We are asking that the property in question be used to further promote what has been started, maintained, and to be developed in the future to benefit and enhance the main southern artery entering the city of Fort Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Next, we have Stan Green.
Mr. Green? Okay, thank you, sir.
Then we have Harold Davis.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm Harold Davis. I'm an attorney and a retired administrative law judge. I'm speaking on behalf of the Riley Farm Property Owners Association. We were opposed to the measure. It was essentially the same measure that was offered in November and was voted down. While it has been revamped to some extent, we do not feel it's substantially different. The measure will cause a lot of traffic problems in that area. While there was a traffic study done, we do not feel it was valid because it was not 24 hours and it did not cover peak traffic times. It's also going to cause significant drainage issues. Right now there is standing water on Old Highway 71 because of the rain today. While we did have rain today, it was not a heavy rain. There's standing water. I just saw it. We would ask that you vote this measure down.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Allison.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Allison, and I am the Riley Farm POA president, and I am here today to inform you about the neighborhood meeting that was held on February 3rd that indicated, the developer indicated that he's going to build single-family residential homes adjacent to the north and east property lines that will be approximately 1,200 square feet, and they will be rentals. Also, he was questioned about building larger homes that will attract a market similar to Riley Farm. And his response is exactly what we fear. And that is, who would want to live next to two commercial lots? One is a gas station with 18-wheelers, and the other one is a church that has 500 to 1,000 people that every single Sunday. Another argument that was given during that meeting was that we need more rentals in that area. After doing our due diligence, there are 1,121 rental units inside 7 developments within a 2.5-mile radius of Riley Farm. So, and they have a vacancy rate of over 50%. So when the developer says that we need more rentals in this area, that is not accurate. Therefore, I respectfully beg of you to deny this zone change. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Madam Clerk.
Next we have Edward Ward. Edward Ward.
Mr. Mayor, directors, first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Martin for responding to my email. I attended both of the presentations given by the proponents of this measure, as well as the Planning Commission meetings. And the proponents have said, well, they've admitted that it'll probably be 20 years before the proposed extension of Chad Colley Boulevard will go through this piece of property. And because of that, although they say it's for commercial and residential, they say because it'll be 20 years before that road goes in, no commercial purchasers will be available for that property. They want to buy it. They don't want to buy it and wait 20 years for a road to come through there. Therefore, it's all going to be residential. He's going to fill it with duplexes, and he's going to ring it around with single-family homes. If these homes are less than 1,500 square feet, this is to put this next to a place like Riley Farms is disastrous for Riley Farms. I mean, you can look at Fiona Hills. You remember what a fine place that was, and in some parts still are. But you know, around the edges, it's eroding. You know, go down Brook and Hill Drive and look at that. It's sad. And the same thing is going to happen to Riley Farm if you put a piece of property like that right next across the street from it. It's going to. It's like that. Rezoning that is like pulling on a piece of thread that's going to unravel the entire neighborhood. My wife and I moved there. It's an expensive house, horribly expensive. It's expensive to keep up. The yard is expensive to keep up. I wish we hadn't moved there, but we did. And we're both in our 70s. We're not going anywhere else. And there's no way we could afford to go to another house like the one we're in.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Anyway, I ask you to vote against this.
Okay. We appreciate you being here.
That's all.
Okay. Just at this time, we would entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved with suspension of the rules.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending the master land use plan map and rezoning identified property and amending the zoning map, and this is for property at 11100 Old Highway 71.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will hear from the board members. Any comments from the board? Director Settle, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start tonight's discussion. I hope it doesn't go too long. We'll see. Maggie, going through the packet, both item A, 1 and 2, I do not see a development plan. So is there a development plan for this development as it sits today?
No.
Proposed?
No.
So, board, this is kind of what I brought up a couple times ago, is here we have a PZZ, no development plan, and we have neighbors that don't know what they're asking, getting The unknown is what's the fear is. What's it look like? What's the duplexes? Are they going to be high quality? They're not. Not questioning that, but this is the reason why I think having a development plan with a PDZ is so important. So people can see it, and some of the fears can go out of it. So that's first question. The second question, Maggie, the street was brought up. Is that us doing the street, or is that the developer going to do the street?
The major arterial?
Yes.
No, that would be the city of Fort Smith doing it.
So Stan, can I ask you a question about that? Do you mind? So Stan, in the crystal ball, where was this laying out before this came to us? Where was this at to do this street that gets from Rye Hill Road to, I guess, next to the gas station?
This extension was put on our 2005 master street plan,
Okay.
which essentially is what it's called. It's a master plan. It identifies corridors in the future depending on what we anticipate for growth. And it just so happens that this corridor for Rye Hill Road, which connects up to Chad Colley, comes up and lines up with the traffic signal there by the convenience store.
But is there any plan in our CIP for 2025 through 2030?
It is not in our 5-year plan. I would think we're probably in the 10 to 15-year range.
Rough estimate to do it? Rough estimate?
We haven't run a cost. It's millions of dollars
Okay.
to do this. I mean, it's I think similar to other projects that we're seeing out in the Chaffee area, the connection with 49 up to 40.
So you're talking about taking it all the way to Chad Colley, make it
Yes,
all the way,
that's
4 lanes
correct.
all the way. So
Correct.
you're proposing a 4-lane, that the artillery is a 4-lane all the way to that area?
Yes, and the right-of-way that is part of this package is a 100-foot right-of-way to accommodate a
So what would
5.
happen if I'm just throwing an idea, if that right-of-way wasn't there anymore, and we asked the developer to go back and assume the right-of-way wasn't there, would they consider a different development?
I can't speak for the developer, but
Okay. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate it. Mr. Alford, thank you, Stan. Appreciate it. Mr. Alford, if the road wasn't there, would that change your client's development completely? And would he be more in line to what the residents ask, which is more in line with what the Riley Farm area looks like?
Well, let me first address the point that you raised first, and the development plan does not have to be presented until the zoning
I
and the
understand
annexation.
that, but I tell you, to my point, I think I brought to this board many times, this is what happens when you have no development plan and a PDZ.
Well,
and you're asking for commercial
but again,
duplexes.
that's not our problem. That's your problem.
I know that. I know that, and I'm trying to convince my board to change that.
So-
but I can tell you right now, without that, I'm a no, because I don't see that.
Well-
but I'm asking a question, trying to get a compromise. If the road's not there, does that change your client's development?
I can't speak to that because we've never had a situation when the road is not there. The road's always been on the master street plan.
I get that, but I'm asking if this, whatever happens tonight, would that be an option?
Well, I mean, are you going to tell us that the road's not going to be there tonight?
I didn't say that. I'm asking, would your client consider a development similar to Riley Farms if the road wasn't there?
I can't say that, but I can tell you this. This property is so close to commercial. In
I
fact,
know where the
if
property's
you look at that assessor's map,
I
one of the houses that's already there is abuts against 71.
I fully understand, but to me, I want a development map so I can see what it's going to look like. And I've said that to
Well,
this board many times.
I don't think that's our problem, but I do think you should raise that with the rest of the directors in
And
the
I
city.
have, and they've known that.
Then there needs to be a vote by the board to amend your PCD plan.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
we're working within the rules, Director.
Thank you, sir.
Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. So there was a traffic study conducted, Maggie, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the traffic study, I would guess, was it based on or did it contemplate Rye Hill Road and the Rye Hill Road East little connector point between 71 and Old Highway 71? I'm asking the question poorly. Was the traffic study conducted in contemplating the road as it currently exists or the fantasy in the future of the widened road?
As it currently exists and all
And
that.
okay, and so was it also accurate then that even with the road as it currently exists, the traffic study had the traffic at around half of the road's currently allowable limitation for traffic and cars, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Director Kemp?
Maggie, can we confirm the beginning time and the end time of the traffic study?
Sure, yes. Actually, if you'll look on page 79 and 80 within your packets, it shows that the strips were laid on Wednesday, November the 6th, starting at noon, and then it goes all the way through 11 o'clock, and then I think this is where the confusion is. You have to turn the page to see where it starts on the next day. And so they were for a full 24 hours because they were pulled on November the 7th, which was Thursday, after the 11 o'clock hour. And you can see the counts for every 15 minutes like they do and with the total number of cars.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Director Neil Martin?
Yeah, I don't know who can answer this. Maybe it's you, Maggie. How do you get into this property? If there won't be a road there, right?
Yes, the developer will have to make their own roads. They will have
Okay.
to develop their own roads in order to have access to this site.
Okay.
Interior access.
So where do those roads? Where's the ingress and egress?
They have not determined that yet. We did stipulate, based on neighbors' comments, the project booklet stipulates that if they are to have an internal driveway into this property towards the south, that it has to line up with Valley View right here, because the neighbors did not want a drive coming out.
So
that
you'd
would be
have to make a decision to turn either way. Valley
So
View.
there would be two, likely.
Okay. All right. Let me ask a question about the size of these properties. I mean, I heard something. I don't know if I necessarily heard it from Mr. Alford. Maybe I did, but the single family homes. What are the sizes of the square footage of those homes?
We don't know. The city does not know. Municipalities in Arkansas are not allowed to
Okay.
regulate the size of single family or duplex
What
homes.
about the developer? Can you give an idea of what the size? Because I have friends that live in Raleigh Farms. Actually, I drove there today. Those are pretty good sized homes, big lots. Do we know what the sizes of those homes will be? Duplexes and single families.
Mr. Smallwood or Mr.
Yeah,
Alford?
whoever
Mr.
can
Alford?
whoever can answer that.
About 1,500, which I don't think depends on, I guess, what people need, but 1,500 is not a small house.
Okay, so let me ask this question. I've heard this. I don't know if it's necessarily true or not, but will these all be rentals? Will the houses, the duplexes, will those all be rental?
Well, I don't think there'd be any more rentals. I mean, the duplexes, I think, will be rentals, but they could be condominiums as well.
Okay.
I'm doing a condominium project not far from this project. But whether they are sales or not, I don't think that's a decision that really is contemplated by the PZD.
No, it's not. I mean, I think the difference between, this went through the Planning Commission. Well, first off, it was denied at the Planning Commission. Let's take a step back. When it went before the Planning Commission originally, it got denied. What was the reasoning around that? And I'll get back to where I'm going.
I believe it was 100% duplex.
It was 100% duplex.
That's
and so
correct.
The Planning Commission said no.
That's correct.
Okay.
They asked for a conventional RSD3 zone
Okay.
with a preliminary plat that would have showed the exact layout, streets, everything, with a total number of 37 units, 37 duplexes.
Okay. And then the concession was made to put homes on the north and then the east side.
Yes.
And there's
Correct.
1,500 square
And
feet.
some commercial
And some.
as you get closer to 71.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So I think, the difference between, and I kind of went back and forth on this, the difference between Planning Commission and us, Planning Commission is going to look at rules. Does it apply by the conditions that are set out in the PZD, RSD, whatever the zoning is and whatever the master land use plan is. The board here has to consider other factors. They got to consider neighbors, existing homes around there. We've got to look. I look at because according to all this, I believe we met the criteria. You meet the criteria for this property. But what we've got to take into account is those around there. And so we've gotten a number of calls and concerns about those folks around there, that's something we take into account and have concerns with. So, I think that's something that I've been looking at and thinking through as I look to make my decision. So I look at, the decisions by the Planning Commission. I look at what the sizes of the homes are. I look at, are there going to be duplexes there? I look at all those things in order to be able to make my decision. So that's kind of how I come about my thought process here. And
let me address one issue about the rental. I mean, no one's talked at all about how many houses in Riley Farm are rented.
Yeah, I think there are some there, right? Yeah.
And so when you ask whether these are going to all be rental, it may be like any other market as to whether they're going to be rental, condominium, or whether they're going to be, owned by the actual occupants.
Are those other rentals? And I know Miss Allison talked about 1,000 rentals, and that's within 2.5 miles. But there are apartments / condos in Riley Farms. Is that correct? And Miss Allison, are there duplexes, condos in Riley Farms?
Correct.
Within the Riley Farms POA?
Correct.
So they have to abide by the POA rules. Mr. Alford, will this
development will also have a set of covenants that all residents will have to comply with.
Does it comply with the Riley Farms POA?
Well, it's not the Riley Farm because this is not an extension of Riley Farm. This is a separate piece of a parcel of land.
Okay.
But it will have its own declaration and covenants.
Okay. Is that something that is with the developer and the tenants, or is that with the developer and the city?
Well, it will be a covenant, a set of declarations that will be filed in the real property records that can be enforced not only by the owner, if it's a rental, but also by other owners of property in the development. And that's the case of every other set of covenants that I've ever drafted or aware of.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make 2 points pretty clear. Number one, regardless of any action taken by us tonight, the developer is currently, on this item, the developer is currently permitted to put in duplexes in this space. Is that correct, Ms. Rice?
That is correct.
So what they wish to do is become water and sewer customers of the city of Fort Smith and be annexed into the community. I think when we have the challenges that we have and the revenue that we need in that department, I do not believe we're necessarily in a strong position to turn down a developer and numerous dwellings that wish to be water and sewer customers and annexed into our city and helping with the challenges that we have.
Director Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Rice, just a question about the Planning Commission meetings. So before this meeting, the Planning Commission had 2 public meetings about this issue?
The Planning Commission met in October of last year and considered the conventional request to an RSD3 zone with the companion applications, which included a plat of 37 duplex lots. And that was denied by the Planning Commission. And then the Planning Commission met again to consider this request in February. And it was approved, 8 in favor, 1 opposed.
And at each Planning Commission meeting, citizens and nearby business owners, anyone interested, can attend those meetings?
Yes,
and
sir.
address the Planning Commission.
Yes, sir.
So, in my opinion, the Planning Commission does have the same considerations that the board has. We have personnel issues that we deal with our department heads, neighbors, and businesses, as well as zoning. Am I missing something the Planning Commission doesn't do that the board does, other than vote?
The Planning Commission does take in lots of different factors, and they do listen to the public. It is a public hearing, and anybody that wants to speak certainly can. And I think that they do have different views sometimes in the board. They are a technical review committee in a sense. And so they're really looking at the different technical aspects as related to the code and in terms of making sure that it meets our future Fort Smith comprehensive plan, our other master street plan requirements and things of that nature.
Exactly. Thank you.
Director Christina Casavage.
I guess this is probably a question for Maggie. You know, I understand that they're interested in this to be on Fort Smith sewer. Would they not already be serviced by Fort Smith water?
They would be allowed to tie on to Fort Smith water. They are not allowed to tie on to Fort Smith sewer unless they are within the city limits.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
With regard to Director Settle's requirement of having a development plan to review, keep in mind, our development plan still has to go back to before the Planning Commission to be approved. It has to be approved by Maggie's department. It has to be approved by the Planning Commission, and it obviously would come back before the board for approval.
There's no development plan requirement with a planned zoning district. The property would have to be platted. That doesn't go to the board. That would go to the Planning Commission. The board certainly could add a condition that a development plan be required on the property. I mean, the board can do whatever it likes.
Mayor,
yes.
I got a question.
Okay, thank you. Director Settle and then Director Kemp, and then we'll go to Director George Casavage.
Thank you. Director Casavas actually was going the direction I was going to go. I guess to administration is, if it's an ETJ zone, do they just say I want to connect to water and they get it, or do we have to have board approval to connect to water if it's an ETJ zone?
No, they can connect to water because Fort Smith owns the water system, so they can connect to water. They have to get a plumbing permit, and it gets reviewed, and we issue water taps. But yes, they can connect to water, city water, just not sewer.
Okay, thank you.
I was just trying to speak to Director Rigo's point that we need to add more accounts for water, that those would be water either way.
It was a good point. I mean, the sewer's the addition. I misspoke.
Director Kemp.
I'm going to go ahead and let George ask first. Go ahead, George.
Is anybody from utilities here? Lance?
Deputy Director Raul is here. He's walking to the podium.
Good evening, everyone.
Let me ask you a question, Rollo. On a development this size, has there been any hydraulic modeling done for water pressure?
I'll have to.
That was an issue before, that they would be required to do hydraulic modeling.
Right.
Has this been required here?
I'll have to go back and look at it.
Maggie, you know?
They have not done hydraulic modeling, but there is sufficient. There's a 14-inch line that's a water line that's out on, I think, Old Highway 71, and an 8-inch sewer line that's also out on Old Highway 71.
So that'll be enough pressure to service all those out with normal pressure?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, now, as Mr. Offer said, that the reason they want to annex is because of access to sewer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how much is that going to cost the city to bring the sewer up to the property?
Well, the developer, the cost
The
is on the developer.
developer brings it up to, they
Yes,
pay
sir.
for all expenses?
Yes, sir.
They get be able to tie on and that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just listening here, I'm with Kevin, Director Settle, on this. I don't, in certain cases, like not having a plan, and I understand that we don't require that, but that's the mess I'm in with Fianna Hills. You know, we continue to have things that get brought up, and there's no plan. The plan doesn't ever come to fruition because they didn't really have it all thought out, and so I disagree with, you know, getting it for customers for the sewer because there's no plan, and what else could go in that would still be a sewer customer in the future? And then the thing I guess I'm still trying to understand, Maggie, if you could help with, is if they were denied the first time because of the duplex plan, they came back and it was approved. But if this was denied tonight, how can they still do duplexes?
Because they have current zoning. The current zoning on the property, even though the property is not within the city, is extraterritorial jurisdiction open one. And that zoning district has several land uses, including single-family homes and duplexes.
Okay. Thank you. I just don't think this makes logical sense to put this right in front of Raleigh Farms. And I think if you step back from it, and especially not having a plan, and I understand the plan is not required, I think, could it be tabled in some sort of compromise if the city was to remove the road and give them more, something that would match the duplexes of Raleigh Farms? Could it even tethering to something so substantial as an investment into that part of the area? Could they basically adopt like-minded covenants so that it's just pretty much a match for match of what could happen there? Those are my thoughts. Thank you, Mayor.
Director Neil Martin.
So this continues to be a problem, the PZD question and no development plan. In any other zoning, you need a development plan, right?
In a conventional zoning district, you are required to either submit a development plan, request a deferral, or request a waiver.
What would be the impact, because we see a lot of these PZDs, what would be the impact to the developer to have a development plan? If the board said you have to have a development plan on a PZD?
Development plans are very costly.
Okay.
And the PZD, the Plan Zoning District, was implemented to allow developers an option without undue financial risk.
Right.
That is the whole purpose of the Plan Zoning District, because when you have a development plan is a full set of engineered drawings, and those are very, very costly.
Right. And Mr. Alford, I'll ask one question that seems to happen periodically, especially around PZDs. Now, this is not all the time, but a lot of times we will have a controversial item come before us for a PZD, something like that, and neighborhood gets upset. The citizens are upset, and we have a divided board, and we have heated arguments up here, and then the development never happens. Is this going to happen? Are we ready to go? What's the timeline on this development actually coming to fruition?
Well, I think the timeline is, very quick, because if the zoning is approved, number one, tonight, number one item, and annexation is approved, number two item, then the developer is confident that there's going to be a development and they can start spending money on engineering.
And they're ready to start?
Yes, and they also understand that there isn't a couple of options here with regard to the street. They understand that they could build the street themselves, and in that case, there would be a partial reimbursement from the city. They also know that they have to build the connecting portion. So if there's a drive on one side of the development or on both sides of the development and they're going to connect, they know that they have to build the temporary connection and the temporary connection to the actual Chad Colley Boulevard. So, there's several options here for the project to be constructed. And I think that's obviously what we want in this city, is we want, development.
And I know I had some communications on both sides of this issue today. And, I think that the POA, and you guys have made concessions, and we definitely appreciate that. But I know that through conversations with the POA, if these items were commercial down the middle, I don't think I think we'd already voted by now. We'd be over with.
Well, I guess my response to that is, it could be, but you tell me when the city's going to build the actual city street. If the city street's going to be built next year, then that's a better possibility. Okay. But you're not going to have commercial built without a city street.
Okay.
Period.
All right. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Good?
Yes.
Kemp?
No.
George Katsavas?
No.
Christina Katsavas?
No.
Settle.
No.
Martin.
No.
Rigo.
Yes.
Motion is defeated with 2 in favor and 5 opposed.
Thank you.
Point of inquiry, I mean, are
Director Rigo.
are items 2A, B, and C, did they contemplate a passage of item 1?
They did. Those will be withdrawn.
They will be withdrawn. Okay. Okay, thank you. Item 2 will be withdrawn. It was regarding the annexation of that property. With that, we will go to item number 3.
Item number 3 is an ordinance rezoning property at 801 South Zero Street and amending the zoning map. Mrs. Rice will address this item as well.
Yes, on February 11th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider rezoning property located at 801 South Zero Street from commercial heavy to industrial light. The property, containing just a little less than an acre, is located on the northeast corner of South Zero Street and Wheeler Avenue. The proposed rezoning to industrial light will allow for an electrical equipment, appliance, and components manufacturing business to operate within the existing building. A neighborhood meeting was held on January 31st. There were no neighboring property owners in attendance. At the Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Tony Toth was present to represent these applications. There were none present to speak in favor or opposition. The Planning Commission voted 9 in favor with 0 opposed to recommend the zoning map be amended.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on this item?
We have Mr. Anthony Toth to answer questions.
Okay, thank you for being here, sir. This time we entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please read the ordinance.
An ordinance rezoning identified property and amending the zoning map, and this is for property located at 801 South Zero Street.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll entertain comments from the board. Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas,
Yes.
Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rigo,
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Go to item number 4.
We
I'm
do-
sorry, we need a motion to adopt the emergency clause. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Directors George Katsavas,
Yes.
Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rigo,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, we will go to number 4.
Item 4 includes 2 items related to city employee pay rates for 2025. 4A is an ordinance establishing pay rates and related procedures for city employees. 4B is an ordinance amending the 2025 operating budget and authorizing appropriation of funds for market adjustment to all non-uniformed personnel and uniformed fire department employees. Rick Lawley, our Chief Human Resources Officer, will introduce this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Dingman. Good evening, Board and Mayor. Each year, we bring a salary ordinance to the Board, and that's what you have tonight. Administration and Human Resources believe this proposal will position us to be competitive in the job market and to help us fill vacancies and retain employees. The wage schedules for the non-uniformed employees or the uniformed police department employees do not change. The wage schedule for the uniformed fire department employees increased approximately 5%. Their last schedule change was April of 2023. The wages for non-uniformed employees will be an across-the-board market adjustment increase of 3.5%. And the effective date of the changes will be the beginning of the 2025 compensation year, which will be April 14th, 2025. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
None indicating.
Okay. This time we're looking at an ordinance establishing pay rates and related procedures for the city employees. Need a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Board comments? We'll start with Director Christina Cassavage.
I have something I want to say about city employees and really a statement I want to make, and I will say I'm making this with permission of the person who was involved. But everyone says you've got to run the city like a business. And part of being in a business is being good to your employees, because the city doesn't run without them. So with that being said, there was a Facebook post that was circulating about a gentleman who was presumed to be sleeping in his car. And so I was interested in that, so I made some calls to find out what was going on. I know we can track these assets and see how long they're at different locations and things like that, and the amount of time he was at the location was quite a bit shorter than what I had expected it to be. So I reached out and made some phone calls, and the gentleman in question has cancer, and he's undergoing chemotherapy treatments, and he was ill, taking a break and, getting his bearings. A lot of people don't know, but I'm a melanoma survivor, and I can say having cancer ravaging your body is exhausting. So I would just like to encourage everybody to come together as a community. I mean, this is a gentleman we should be coming behind as a community. I mean, not only is he sick, he's having to work through his treatment. So I will say, I think we have good employees here, and I think most people take pride in the work that they do. And so I'm in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Neil Martin.
I'm also in favor of this. Thank you, Director Katsavis, for that. Here's my question and concern. I don't have a problem moving forward with this. However, what we continually need to think about is the impact to water and sewer rates. Without having numbers for 2025 as it relates to operational cost and specifically the debt service coverage ratio, I think we need to proceed cautiously with these things. I want folks to get their raise. That's not what I'm advocating, but what I am advocating for is, and I don't really know, and I'm looking for the board maybe for help and a little guidance with this, but I don't want to work our way into a rate increase, and I don't have any numbers in which to go by as we go and make this decision. Are there any options that we can do that could potentially protect our people, but then also make sure that we're not doing something that's going to have a negative impact in a rate increase? If that makes sense.
Okay.
Mayor, if you don't mind,
Right, so.
So next 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about reallocation of funds.
Okay.
Just for example, the reallocation just in the 2025 budget will accumulate $2.3 million into the water, going from those four core areas back to the water and sewer fund.
So you're talking about the plan that you...
Mayor, board, city administration, sustainability, and city clerk will all go to general fund.
General fund being funded out of general fund, and not funded from...
Not funded out of those different quarries. And
Okay.
so I did the math before I came here. It put $2.3 million back into water sewer fund by just doing that.
And that doesn't even account for what Director
Sanitation.
Rigo had put together.
Yeah, that's what Director Rigo said, or even what Director Casavis says tonight with Make My Move. But
Yeah.
it also puts funds back in the street department and puts funds back into the solid waste department.
Okay. So that's 2 weeks from tonight?
2 weeks from now, yes,
Okay.
sir. So there's an option that puts more money back into the coffers of that, which helps overall that piece.
Okay, and I think to that point, Andy had provided us the cost per fund for raises, and I think it's about $500,000 for water and sewer. Do you know what the breakdown of that would be from water and sewer? Do you have
It's
it?
$2.3 million into the water and sewer fund.
Okay. Okay.
So I did that math, so I know that's $2.3 million. So I've got my computer, I can show you if you want to see it.
But then we'd have to obviously the board would have to vote on that.
Yeah, but if the board approves that, then that will go back to that much to the funds, and the other funds will have a little bit less.
Okay.
Are we still appropriating money for the positions we haven't filled?
It's in the budget, but if we don't hire anybody, we see
But
that on the
when we're talking about
actuals.
rate increases and getting up against the debt service coverage, are we factoring in?
That's actual operations
Okay.
expense.
Okay.
Am I correct on that, Andy? So it's not the budget, it's the actual operations cost, yeah. So if we don't fill a position, we don't,
Okay.
that doesn't become an operational expense. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that's top of mind, because I'm going to bring up that very same thing in the next item. So I just think we've always got to be thinking it through. We know what the impact will be on the general fund streets, but water and sewer, we've got to keep that in mind. And what this would tell me, we would have to make some of the moves that Jared said. We'd have to make some of the moves that Director Settle said. We'd have to make some of the moves that Director Katsafis said, and of which I'm for it. That's water sewer. Okay. So I just want everybody to just be mindful of that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Okay. Madam Clerk, you can call the roll.
Need a motion?
We've got one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Who moved and who seconded? Directors Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, we're going to go to B.
Motion to adopt item 4B.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Please call the roll.
Director Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
It's approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Item 5.
Item 5 is an ordinance amending the 2025 operating budget and appropriating funds for 2024 carryovers. Mr. Andy Richards, the Chief Financial Officer, will address this item.
So these were the 2024 budget carryovers that were presented in the February 21st meeting. They were tabled, and we came back at the last study session and discussed this list. And as I said in my memo in the packet, we did whittle out some of the initial items that were in the first list that we proposed. But this is the same list that the board discussed at the last study session, and that hasn't changed. The budget impact of those carryovers, I emailed that to you, which was referenced in the last item. That was included as well, but I'll answer whatever questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any citizens' comments?
Yes, we have 2 individuals, the first being Kim Fodge.
Good evening. I'm just going to make some general comments. It sounds like y'all are moving in the direction that I had hoped that y'all were moving, but as you all know, we're currently paying for the sins of our fathers who decided not to make hard decisions that we needed to make the repairs of the city infrastructure. The current board is at a crossroads. You can choose the path that our predecessors took by implementing tax and spend policies, or you can make the hard decisions and implement fiscally sound budget cuts to unnecessary expenditures. It appears that you're choosing the latter. I hope that's true, and I hope that continues even after the May vote by the citizens on this tax proposal that y'all have presented. I know a lot of times the board members will try to scramble and make things look good so that things will pass, and then it's just business as usual afterwards. And I hope that's not the case with you guys. I have faith that you guys are going to do the right decision and not make our children and our grandchildren pay for the sins of their fathers like we've been doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Next, we have Crystal Cadelli.
Good evening. I want to echo what Kimberly had to say. You know, there has been a noticeable difference within some members of this board, and us citizens really appreciate it. There's been some hard conversations. There's been some tightening of the belts. There are a few of you that still need to, you know, take your job seriously and focus on what the citizens' needs are and not what your needs are. I still stand by my statement a few weeks ago regarding the 2024 carryovers. If there's not a contract tied to them and they're not essential, I do believe that they just need to be denied and moved aside to, a year where we are financially stable. I appreciate Mr. Rigo posting the planned budget that he has proposed on Facebook. That is the planned budget that I've been talking about since August. And I feel like there's a lot more changes that can be done to the 2025 budget, that, there's a lot of waste that we can focus on. And, I think that if we would have focused on that instead of parks and, non-essential projects, that the citizens wouldn't be paying such a high water rate and the 3.5% sewer rate for the next 5 years. So I continue to ask you guys to look out for us. We put you in your seat, and we need you to make some hard decisions and focus on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So, at this time, we will entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
So moved.
Need a second, please. Got a second? Any comments from the board? Any further comments from the board? Director Rigo and then Director George Cassavis.
A couple, for a couple different department heads. It seems, and I'm not trying to get a cart before a horse or anything like that, but it seems like this is a natural place in the flow of the evening and at an inflection point of action to talk about Make My Move a little bit. And so I would like to have Josh come up, because I have just a question. I mean, this is where the money is represented, and theoretically an amendment could be made here. And then I'll also have a question for Mr. Savage as well. But if you would mind coming up, Josh.
I do have a presentation that I could show if you guys would be open to that.
You talk about
on Make My Move. It could pertain to some of your questions, I'm sure, but
sure. So I had proposed a 25% reduction in this carryover amount. Others, of course, want it zeroed out completely. So there's certainly a trend, perhaps a working majority against the program and carrying forward the money for the program. And so I think before any decisions are made, and I don't know, it'll be the will of the board if they want to hear a full presentation now, but could you at minimum here at this juncture talk to us a little bit about the successes that we've had, and I've always found you to be an intellectually honest person, and open and communicative. What are the struggles and what are the challenges and perhaps disappointments you've seen?
yeah. So far we've had 6 people move as part of the program. 5 of those people have received monetary incentives.
To the tune of what? It's like
$12,500 so far.
And what do you have to do to be accepted in the program for people who don't know?
So you have a annual household income of $90,000. You live outside of the state of Arkansas, and you have a remote job that you can bring with you. You already have the job whenever you move here. Currently, we offer $5,000 if you lease and $10,000 if you buy. Half is paid up front or whenever we get closing documents or a lease agreement. The other half is paid after they stay here for a year, so they are agreeing to stay here for a year. So far, we have up to $180,000 that is in process, meaning we have either extended offers to folks or they've already accepted an offer. And then one person has actually moved, and they're waiting on this carryover vote tonight to get their money. They moved in January. So we have seen some successes, but honestly, it's not, we haven't had as many people move as I had anticipated. But I did want to get through the summertime period when most people move to see how it went after that, which I believe on the January 14th meeting, Director Kemp and you decided to move it until after that move season, which Director Katsavis, you weren't here for that meeting.
Okay, well, Mayor, those are the questions I had for Josh. I do have questions for Mr. Savage, but if other people have questions for Josh, I don't want to stop with Josh.
Josh, is that $12,500 total or per person? Or
no,
per
that's
family?
total so far. So that's the first installment. So technically, we actually still have $12,500 outstanding to those movers in the program. So it'd be $25,000 total that's outstanding currently. Well, $12,500 outstanding, and then $5,000 additional, so $17,500 outstanding.
If we have people that we've already made contracts with and they're already moving here, I would be fine with that, but I'd like to close it out afterwards because we're tying up a lot of money here that could be back in the general fund. And I know, initially I was for this program because they said the way it was sold to us was there wasn't a financial payment tied to it. It was like an advertising thing. Like, we're going to go out, we're going to advertise Fort Smith, and we're going to bring in young professionals who work remote. And I thought, great, who wouldn't want to live here? They just need to know about us. That's great. And I remember after that meeting, Russ Bragg came up to me and he said that was a huge mistake. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, you're going to have to pay people to move here. That's what's coming next. And I said, no, this isn't like what you're used to. It's a different thing. And then sure enough, that was the next ask, and I voted against it. And then that's when the board, I think Director Martin, introduced the idea of a 6-month formal evaluation for us to consider it, which we missed. And so that was what I was requesting tonight. Thank you.
Director George Katsavis.
Andy? Did you want to go?
I just got a question.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead, George.
Hey, Andy, what is the total amount of the carryover money?
Let's see, the total was
Of all the carryovers?
$3,466,000.
Okay, and where's that money earmarked to? Where's it going to go?
Let's see.
Wait, stop. Let me ask you, why can't we just put it in an escrow or savings account and forget about it for a while?
Because we have contracts out on some of these things.
Most of them.
Go on. The contracts are out on them?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of these things, the large ticket items, they are under contract. And, the funds we have, like, we've talked about, those funds are sitting in interest-bearing funds right now. The city's money that it has makes money. But, these things are, anything that we thought we didn't need.
Well, give me an example of a major contract that's going to get funded by this. One major contract.
This one, let's see. There's a couple of large ones in here. The 1.4 million of it is for the farmers market solar project that we've agreed to.
I didn't agree to that. Board did.
Well, that's not the way votes work.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the investment in the solar panel project. That's a large part of it. Let's see if there's other larger. The other ones are not as significant as that. The transit has some significant contracts in here, but those are 85% reimbursed by the federal government.
That's right.
There's some other things that are, $150,000 to repair the retaining wall, Oak Cemetery. Those are things that need to get done.
Okay, Andy, that's, I don't agree with this, but that's fine.
Right.
Thank you.
Director Kemp?
Yes, I had a question for Josh again. I'm definitely not opposed to closing down. I do want to see us take care of whoever we've contractually committed to. My motion to table this was because I saw that it wasn't successful and it was a peacekeeping endeavor to say, then it will still just be a little amount of people at the end of it anyways. And I was trying to focus on water leaks and other things of the issue. So to me, it was like, well, let's see what moves. But my question I do have, just out of curiosity, is for the 5 that have, what is the economic impact of them moving? I mean, we're going to put $25,000, if I hear you say, but what will they bring back on the dashboard for that to us?
Yeah, that is in my presentation. I mean, I believe currently it's $235,000, but they project a 5-year economic impact. I think it's, I would just be throwing a number out there, but I think it's 3.3 million or something like that.
So, you know, obviously we're not getting the return we had hoped, but at the same time, for the 5 we do have, if we are stopping here, if that's what this board decides, we do have an economic impact that we will at least get back at the magnitude that we're in.
Yeah, and we do have 4 more signed offers. So these are people that we have contracted with. We have signed MOUs from them. And then we've extended some offers that may or may not be accepted. They have not signed the MOU as of today.
Thank you.
Any other, Director Christine Savage?
So the thing that's a little bit different with the Make My Move is not me, but y'all appropriated $250,000 to be dispersed as needed. Some of these other things the board voted on, some I voted for, some I didn't, and then we entered into contracts with people. We can't renege on those contracts. I understand that, but the Make My Move, we're tying up a lot of money, and I understand if people are moving here and they've signed a lease or they're buying a house based on this, then we should pay them. But I think after, we're past these people that are already under contract, I think we should shut the program down. I was angry initially with it because I feel like we were duped, and maybe that's my fault for being a little cavalier without having as much experience as I should have to make a decision with a company like this. But the things that are under contract are only under contract because they received board approval. So I think it would be a really bad look now to go back and say, no, we're not going to pay you, and then we're going to have a mountain of legal fees. But the Make My Move was just an appropriation to take out on a case-by-case basis. I think we can take those cases out and move on.
Director Rigo and then Director Neil Martin.
Josh, a couple things. One, I know you've got the presentation. May you please make sure you email that to us this evening, just so we have it. And then my question is, would a amendment here, on this carryovers, would an amendment reducing the amount for Make My Move by 25% today, would that leave enough to cover what we need to cover?
Yeah, certainly.
And start the process of winding it down?
Certainly, and the majority of people actually are renting, so that was the original projection was for if everybody bought a home, so we likely wouldn't spend all of that money anyway.
Okay.
So.
But we're still tying it up.
Is there, did someone else have a question for Josh Mayor before
Director Neil Martin was the key.
It wasn't necessarily for Josh, it's just in general. So if you've got something for Josh.
I'm just going to talk to Director Rigo.
Yeah.
Since we already got to Make My Move on item number 7 tonight, it makes more sense just to let's deal with it then instead of trying to deal with it here and then again. That's just the thought.
But are we gonna vote to move forward with money for Make My Move and then 4 items later do something different?
Or you just wanted to pull it out and then have a vote on it on 7?
Oh, I was just trying to be more efficient with our time since the money's here in this item. And I know and I want to circle back to it, but procedurally in the flow of the carryovers, I did have a question for Ken, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
I know, thank you, Ken. I know you talked and elaborated for us last week about the $750,000 under contract for the fueling station, and I should have asked you then, and I apologize. Right below that's a couple million towards alternative right-of-way access for the 28th Street. It said it was delayed due to some reluctance upon the railroad to enter into a joint use agreement, et cetera, et cetera. Can you just, like you did for the other project last week, kind of give us a flavor of where that's at right now? Because I think, scanning quickly, that's the biggest ticket item in the whole carryover fund, but the narrative suggests maybe there's some difficulties going on in that process. So where are we at?
Sure, and it's a project that we've been working on since 2022, and with the biggest issue and biggest hurdle being, getting an agreement, a shared use agreement with the railroad, A&M Railroad. And I think Jerry can probably talk to it better than I can, but we're very close on an agreement with the A&M Railroad.
I guess more of my, not necessarily the legal ins and outs, but why is this important?
Okay, so it's significant because if you've tried to access our facility, you have to pass through Spartan Logistics warehouse, and there are semi-trucks and trailers that are maneuvering, making it very risky to get in and out of that facility. And we're located backset from that. We have 19-acre complex back, and you have to travel and traverse through all that, and it's very risky. And I'm surprised we haven't had an accident yet. So that's one issue. About 1.3 million of this is for some perimeter drainage that's got to be replaced. We lost a lawnmower in one of them. A suck hole in the thing was so huge that you can't mow it. And ADEQ has even asked us to address it. So, I mean, that's part of this whole process that we're working towards with the access road. So the access would get us road would get us access from South 28th Street onto the transit property.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful.
Sure.
Would that be at an 80% reimbursement rate?
Okay, so the access road itself is an 80% reimbursement. The CNG slow fill station is 90% reimbursed. So you're looking at a total of about, with both projects combined, the local match, the part that will affect the general fund after all reimbursements are brought back in, is about $517,000.
How quickly do you find, Ken, that you get reimbursed? Because we've been through some stories, with other aspects of the federal government where the reimbursement takes half of forever. Do you find it's pretty timely in your reimbursement world?
It's very timely. We actually have these grants that are already assigned to Fort Smith, and we have a culmination of unspent grant funds, which is what we're spending down to make this project whole. And it also does that. It gets these grant funds spent, and it allows us to continue to get grant funds. And we receive an apportionment of approximately $2 million every year. And so what's unspent, we try to work with these projects that gain efficiencies. And this one is particularly necessary for safety. So, the CNG is more efficiency related. This one is more safety related.
Thanks.
Director Cassavage, did you have anything else?
No, I just want to make sure we clarified that when we're talking about all of these transportation things, they're reimbursed at a very high rate. And I think when I, first went out there and toured your facility out there, you were telling me it ended up costing was like $32,000 or something for this huge facility and all that land.
Right. The property owner contributed quite a bit in kind, and so the city actually only put about $37,000 into acquiring the whole property and the facility. So that was very handy for us and very nice because the garage has tall ceilings, works very well for the buses. It used to be a trans-state lines trucking facility, so it works really good. But at that time, TSL and the warehouse was all under one operation, and now it's been split up differently. So we're having to traverse through that property to be able to access our property. And in addition, it creates some security issues because they can't really lock down their property, knowing that we have to have access. And so, that creates security issues for them as well. So it really helps them a lot as a neighbor in being able to do the things they do. But I just want to remind you that the grant funds are solid, and the reimbursements are timely. So hopefully, you won't see any issues with that.
Okay, thank you, Director Neil Martin, and then Director Kemp.
Outside of Make My Move, what else is not under contract? Do you know off the top of your, I can see it here, but what's the dollar amount of things that aren't under contract?
Yeah, I don't have it tallied up. We do have it. I do have it noted on the side.
When you noted on the side, what do you mean?
Well, there's the list. That's.
Yes. I thought you were talking dollar amount.
The big ticket items they all got contracts on them.
And the canopy at the farmer's market is under contract?
Yes.
That's all I've got, Mayor.
Director Kemp.
I have two questions. One, I was trying to figure out what I'm going to ask, but I think my personality is to be candid, so I'm going to ask. I understand the solar is under contract, but is that can it ever be reconsidered, or were there clauses in there that it cannot be reconsidered?
I don't think that's a question for me, but it's probably a legal question.
It's just a question to ask. Otherwise my head's going to think about it all night.
That's a very good question.
And then the other thought is, and I don't know, I'm bringing that up. I think that's a big ticket on there. The other one, I guess, for me.
But it makes the money back. We get the money back by selling the electricity back.
In 30 years, though, is that correct?
No, it's not 30.
I think it's like 10 years.
It's 10 years.
It's $1.5 million. It's the only comment I have.
It's already been voted on and passed.
And it may not be negotiated. It could be as simple as that. I just think it's worth asking the question in public air. The second thing I would say, though, is it does not have a contract, and it's the repair of the retaining wall at Oak Cemetery. And I'm just curious about that project and who could speak to that. And I'm not necessarily trying to oppose that. I'm just saying it's another $150,000 that's not in contract. And is there options to put it up for bid again? And I see Ms. Dooster coming, so I know she'll shoot me straight, and I appreciate that.
I will. There's really nothing we can do. It has to be repaired or it's going to collapse. We were here in 2020 with one just down the hill, and it is well beyond what our staff are capable of doing. It's original stone, and it's going to collapse, and you have a lot of headstones up against it. The vault's about 12 inches away from it. There is no easy way to repair it.
So is this anything another department like Stan or Matt? Is this something we could do in-house? I understand it's not, if we weren't going back with stone and we were going back with something, we do a lot of concrete work, and I've seen what they've done. It's just a question to ask.
There is a lot of moving parts here. You're talking about having literally this much room to get equipment in there to excavate the stone wall and then re-pour concrete. So to save money, we're actually not going back with the stone. We're doing a concrete retaining wall.
Okay, so we are pouring a concrete wall. Okay,
yes.
back.
Yes.
But is that something, Matt? Could you speak to that?
I think they can do that.
These are just these are just questions that are in my head. I understand the answers to them. I'm just scrubbing.
It's hard to say since I haven't seen plans on it, but I'm sure we could probably do it. The only thing with that is we couldn't fund it. We'd have to be totally funded labor and materials by Parks, because I can't use my funding for that. The other thing is that we've got full schedule as is. So what do you want to shut down over in streets for us to build that?
No, I understand. I just wanted to ask the question because when we talk about Make My Move being, north of a couple $100,000, that's $150 that's not in contract. Now you're moving the needle here pretty fast. If you're trying to make a cut, in the spirit of cuts is all I'm talking about.
On a project like that, I'd probably have to use my heavy construction crew and probably one of the sidewalk crews would have to be shut down to do that work.
And this is the last one. I don't necessarily like this idea, but I'm just talking out loud. Is this something that, when I think of cemeteries and I think about caring, like I'm doing a funeral tomorrow, this is what I do by trade. Is there a nonprofit sector that would help us with this? When we talk about caring for these cemeteries, it's one thing I've always wondered, especially when we talk about mowing, different things of that nature. I mean, is there a nonprofit group that could assemble that wall if they were doing it to permit?
We require this one. We're requiring a performance and payment bond for this. I'd invite you and you can come look at it, but it's much more involved than the one we did in 2020. 2020, we did not have to touch the stone wall. We literally just poured a concrete one in front of it. This one, it is very close, and our staff are actually going to have to remove headstones, so that's taken time away from them because it's not really something we want to put on the contractor.
Yeah.
And with that, you mentioned the $150,000. I'll be transparent. There is an item in the consent agenda, item 6D. It came in about $75,000. However, that is only for half the wall. And once they get in there and start removing that, I'm not going to guarantee the rest doesn't go down and we have to replace it. Because it's that old and that dirt's going to shift. And to be honest, we don't know what's going to happen until we get in there and do it. So that's why that full $150,000 is in the carryover request.
Well, thank you for your time and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Director Rego, Director Settle, and then Director Christina Casares.
I withdraw.
Okay. Director Settle?
Two things. Matt, you can stay there. I didn't recognize you, man. You've done a great job, by the way. Heck of a job. To the board, I think this probably reminds me of a couple times. I think there's a point to where this board needs to have a planning meeting. What our goals are, what we want to do for the year. We've done this every other year, every 4 years, and I think it's time. I think this discussion here is kind of telling me it's time to have that. Because maybe our goals are different than previous boards, and we need to have that discussion. If we've gone out to, we've done the Bonneville House, we've done Huckabee Center, so maybe it's time to have a planning meeting with this board, understand where look at the current goals and priorities of the previous board, and how the current board fits into, and what our new goals and priorities would be. If they match that, or if they want to change. And then that will trickle down into what projects we want to do, how the funding looks, and what cuts we want to do, X, Y, Z. So it's my suggestion to the board. I think sometime maybe in probably April, May, I think, we could, if the board's willing to do that, I think that would give us the better direction and give the administration and the department heads and our city employees better direction, which way we want to move forward as a team. So we're not here trying to talk questions and ask questions. We give good direction to the city going forward, and the citizens know that, the public knows that, and we move forward in a harmonious direction. So that's my pitch to the board, of having a planning meeting to look at our goals and objectives.
Okay, thank you. Director Christina Casares.
Well, I would like to say, with the Oak Cemetery, if you're not in favor, you could vote against it tonight because that is on the agenda. But, if we're looking at some of this, it's insurance funds that were appropriated but not spent for the senior center. Those will have to go back into the senior center. Those aren't under contract, but we need to go ahead and approve them so we're not losing that insurance money. And I will say some of this I was not in favor of, but the board passed it and we have contracts out. If we start reneging on contracts, no one will ever want to contract with us again. They'll say Fort Smith doesn't pay their bills. And I know we're better than that. With that being said, I think we've talked this thing to death. Let's call the vote and move on.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove the Make My Move funding for a separate vote.
Need a second? Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll on that?
This is on the amendment.
This is number 5, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Amending number 5 to remove the Make My Move.
Okay.
Directors Martin,
Yes.
Rego,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
So this time we need to adopt the ordinance as amended.
Correct. Item 5 is amended.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Rego,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Nope.
Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Motion passes 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
And I guess now, would it be in order to, I would make a motion to vote to eliminate the zero out the Make My Move funding, less the obligations, the contractual obligations that we have to current enrollees in the program.
That's the proper motion.
Second.
Okay. Okay, any discussion? Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll on it?
Directors Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further, we can go to the officials forum.
Consent agenda.
The consent agenda, I'm sorry. We did skip that. Let's go to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any comments on that? Or is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to have removed for separate discussion?
F.
F,
A.
FA. Any others? Okay, thank you. Mr. Demon, you're recognized to present those.
Tonight's consent agenda contains 8 items. The first item, 6A, is a resolution amending the design contract for Massard Road Phase 3 to include design for a pedestrian cycle bridge over the roadway. 6B is a resolution authorizing equipment replacement purchases for the Streets and Traffic Control Department. 6C is an ordinance approving Creekmore parking lot improvements Phase 2. 6D is a resolution authorizing repair of Oak Cemetery retaining wall. 6E is a resolution approving the city serving as grant sponsor for Methodist Village application for federal TAPS program funds. 6C is an ordinance approving the construction contract to assemble and install water slide components at the water park. 6G is a resolution renewing the non-residential third-party hauler permit agreement for Cards Holdings, Inc. And 6H is a resolution authorizing the purchase of fire apparatus.
Okay, thank you. Item A for discussion.
Yeah, so I'll start the conversation here. So, you know, what we're putting towards the board or for the citizens is a reallocation of these dollars. Reallocation of dollars from streets to water sewer for consent decree work. So what we're proposing, and ultimately it'd have to pass by the citizens, would be 5/8 cent sales tax for streets, bridges, and drainage, and then 1% for water and sewer, which I think causes us as a board to need to go back and look at the CIP associated with streets, bridges, and drainage, and make sure that we're identifying the most important projects, the projects that need dollars if this were to pass. With this coming to the voters in May, I think we need to maybe take a step back and push this one back until that vote is made, and then at that time pick this one back up to determine if this is the direction and route we need to go.
I would agree with that.
If I might.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know what Stan has planned to say, but what I might say, this Phase 3 design of this portion of Massard Road the design is already underway to design this portion of road. The question here is to alter that design to include this accommodation of the pedestrian bridge over that roadway. And I mean, regardless of what happens here, the design for the roadway will be completed. I mean, it's already under contract. We are due a deliverable at the end of that. We will get that. Whether we build the road then or not, or wait to some point in the future to build the road is a different question to your...
How far along are we in that design? And when will it end?
We're between 60 and 90% planned.
Okay. When do we anticipate it being completed?
Well, we've got to get this amendment approved to finalize it.
So this is just the bridge.
Well, it's not just the bridge. There's several items that are involved in that.
Stoplight.
we've got a 30-inch water transmission line that we cross multiple times. We're trying to do what's called soft dig, expose the line to design around any conflicts that may come in. We've also got some additional right-of-way that we're going to have to identify to acquire some easements, temporary construction easements. We've had some revisions on the profile, both the horizontal and vertical alignment, to address some safety concerns.
How much do we have into the design at this point? And how much is the total cost? And then
The amendment that's before you brings it up to a
770.
let me look here.
Is that the total cost of the design?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 559, 180 now. We've got about probably 40, 50,000 left in the contract.
Okay.
Some of the work that we've looked at on this, we've actually done already as far as some of the initial layout concepts and stuff
Okay.
that
So we're close to being done with this.
Yes.
We're 770 is all that's left in the design, the full design of Massard Road.
Correct.
Okay.
And what I would recommend, expanding on what Mr. Dingman said, is that this is not a construction contract. This is to finalize the design. And, I-49 going up to tie into 40 is coming. The state just let a $282 million Arkansas River Bridge that's going to be done in a couple of years. They've got one more contract on the very north end with 40 heading south. That's for, I believe, about 12 miles that's supposed to let in 2026. You've got the remaining piece between where the bridge project's going to end at Gun Club Road and the piece on further to the north. It's coming. Is it going to be here next year, in the next 2 or 3 years? No. But we need to have this ready because the growth is going to increase drastically when the interstate comes through there and you have a major north-south interstate. Something else I'd like to throw in there too, we've got 500 platted lots that have been approved out there that have not started construction on yet. We've got another 142 dwelling units of apartments that are also been approved that have not started construction in it. We've got 200 acres of undeveloped land out there that's likely to spur even more growth, and to sit back and think that this is not going to be needed is wrong. We looked at and we're sliding the Acme Brick detention project forward, and we're looking at adjusting this one back as far as construction.
This one?
Yes. And I mean, that's something that's going to come out when we update our CIP on an annual basis this fall, and also factor in what happens with the ones that set status.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing for me is making sure that we're, whether this is on that list. It sounds like you would put it on the list regardless. The other items on that CIP, I think we've got to make sure that we're looking at and are adjusting accordingly.
Yes, and one other thing I might add too, RDOT does periodic counts around the city. It's on their website. You can pull it up and look at it. Just going back since 21, we've had 8%, 6%, and over 8% going up to 23, which is their latest counts. Typically you look at around a 2% growth is what you factor in. We're seeing growth on this. We're seeing it continue.
That's year over year growth on
traffic volumes on Massard Road, just west of Wells Lake Road.
Okay.
And with the
west of Wells Lake, is that?
It's that 2-lane section kind of west of where the fire station is.
Okay.
And the volume of traffic that we're seeing out there is being based on the growth that you're seeing is what's driving that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You answered my questions.
Director Rigo.
It seems to me, I guess I wouldn't necessarily disagree with the macro picture, big picture assertion that, there's growth coming, obviously, into that area. But I generally speaking, I mean no disrespect, failed to see what the substantial challenge would be if we decided to table item A for consideration after the sales tax vote, because then we'll have a stronger sense of what the structure of the streets fund will look like, in 2 months and some change. And I think we would, obviously, any kind of big, massive construction things like a road expansion, widening, connecting to a new interstate, et cetera. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing I think we should really talk about deliberately and assess from all angles at a planning meeting, like Director Settle suggested. And so, I would certainly be in favor of a temporary hold on item A until after the election, and we see what the structure for that funding base is.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Second.
Did you have some?
So I guess the motion would be to table item 6A for consideration in the month of May after the forthcoming election.
So to the second meeting in May?
Sure.
Second.
Stan, did you have any further comments on that?
Do not.
Okay. Okay.
Mayor, if I could.
I think Director Kemp was in the queue. Go ahead.
Stan, how long would the engineering services, once they are agreed upon in the future, how long does that take to execute that project? When you talk about having it ready, like what's the scope of work from beginning to completion for deliverables?
For finishing the design, this amendment that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Probably in the next 6 to 9 months.
I mean, it'll take 6 to 9 months to complete the work?
Yes.
Okay, so once if it was activated, it would take 6 to 9 months to give you deliverables?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have right-of-way acquisition after that. There's a gas well that we're impacting, that's along the right-of-way that we have to do. There's likely to be some utility relocations, and several other items that you have to do.
So it kind of dominoes into other deliverables?
Yeah, it's not just, you don't just do the design, pull the trigger, and it's ready to bid. There's multiple things that have to take place.
Thank you, Stan.
We have a motion and second to table this. Madam Clerk.
Directors Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas,
Yes?
Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rego,
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, you requested item F for discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll stand for any questions on that.
Go ahead, Director Christina Savage.
Why are we declaring an exceptional situation and waiving the requirements of competitive bidding?
Because the particular contractor is one that assembles water slides, and we don't have water slide assembly contractors locally. This one travels nationwide assembling these amenities.
Are they the only one?
I don't know if they are the only one that does that, but they have worked on our previous projects.
They're the ones that Whitewater contracts with them, and that's who they use.
Because I would imagine anybody that has a water park, there's probably only a few, places throughout the country that service these things. Nobody, has one probably in their city. It just seems like with the whole slide situation, it just feels like we're getting it wrong at every turn. And, to me, this doesn't inspire confidence that we're handling it properly. $500,000 to install these things. Was this what was expected with the initial $4.2 million, or is this in addition to?
This is within the $4.2 million.
Was this initially what we projected, though?
I believe so.
Yes.
All right.
Director Neal Martin.
So just to clarify, because I had the same question that Director Katsavis had. So the $4.2 million was not $4.2 million for the slides. It was $4.2 million for installation, everything. And
Yes.
this $500,000 is part of the sum total of $4.2 million.
That's correct. And there will be another construction contract to follow for the footings and the erection of the steel and the hanging of the slides. But that'll be a separate construction contract.
How
We haven't
much did
seen
the
it yet.
actual slides cost?
$2.3 million.
I think that's
right.
correct.
Yeah.
That's right. Can we pull this one out for separate vote?
Yes. We can. Okay. At this time, we will ask for, let's go ahead and vote on item F. Are there any other questions on that, Madam Clerk?
Motion to approve item.
We do have some individuals to speak on that item.
Okay, I apologize. Madam Clerk, please invite them up.
I'm going out of order, but 6F, Kim Fodge.
My question's up and answered, thank you.
Chris Cadelli.
Good evening. I'm just going to take this opportunity to remind everyone that this slide addition purchase was done without the approval of the county's partner, or excuse me, the city's partner, Sebastian County, which in my mind calls into question the overall health of this partnership and the park. It kind of seems like this is really the city's problem. Sebastian County demonstrated the fiscal discipline to pass on the slide addition, as so should we have. The city should have passed on this. And I'll just finish with this because I think that this is another example of $4.2 million. I know that it's been classified as a drop in the bucket, but it's a lot of money, and especially when we have city employees that work hard and deserve a raise. And I think that these discussions about approving raises for city employees is a lot easier discussion if we're better handling our financials. But anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Next we have Dan Williams.
Good evening, Board. I guess I want to go back to, whenever this was voted on. What I'm hearing, and maybe I just need clarification, is when you purchased the slide, you went into an agreement already for them to install the slide. So there's some kind of contract, either written or not written, to go ahead and have this particular group install the slide. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what this action is tonight.
Okay, so there's no contract or no commitment, verbal or handshake deal, to where it says, hey, we're going to buy the slide from you and you get to install it?
No, there are two separate vendors.
Because I'd probably want to go back to originally, after we purchased the slide, the next couple of times we met, I was here and I heard them ask, has this already been committed to, and has the check already been sent? And there was all kinds of yes and this and a lot like what I'm feeling tonight. And I thought it was all a bunch of BS anyway. Okay. And so I'm wondering now who can clarify and who can look into this and find out who can verify and validify that what we're being communicated is legitimate, because I feel like I'm being lied to. And when I feel like I'm being lied to, and then I see, not just in this particular one, but another one that it says we got some exceptional situations, I'm thinking, this is a brother-in-law deal here, and I don't like what I'm hearing, and, it seems like there's a whole lot. So I don't know if you're being completely honest. I don't know. I just have a lot of questions.
Mr. Williams, I'll be happy to answer that.
Yes, please.
The board committed, when we funded the project, to buy the slides.
Yes.
That was the contract that we put in place.
Yes.
Whitewater is the owner, the manufacturer of the slides.
From Canada, correct?
From Canada, Whitewater
Yep.
West, and they produce slides for everybody in the United States and Canada.
Yes.
And so when the installation of that comes, Whitewater as a company, and that's when we did the $4.2 million, that dollar amount was put into that $4.2 million that the board approved the funding for.
Yeah, I understand, but they never brought up that they would be the ones installing it. They just said that we were going to get it installed. And my question is, why not go ahead and just see if there's other people that can install it for half the price? It'd be worth checking into.
Are there any other comments on?
One more, Crystal Cadelli.
So my question was answered about the 500,000, so I appreciate that. I wasn't sure if it was included or if it was an addition, so I appreciate the clarification. The water slides, they've been very contentious with the public. I feel like they're going to be a lot of fun, just something that we couldn't afford. And, if anything, parks probably should have paid for it with their tax that they get from the public, because it is going into a park that's co-owned with the county. With that being said, I want to thank Mr. Kemp for the questions earlier. I don't think any question is stupid. I think that's how you learn and how you create ideas and solve problems. So I do appreciate that. I think that if we did more of that, then collaboration would help us solve some of our financial problems. You talked about reneging. I feel like the board reneged on the citizens of Fort Smith with the water rates. The increase that was proposed to us was never a 53% increase, and that's what we received, along with a 3.5% sewer rate increase. So I understand not reneging on contracts. It's never good business, but I also think that you should not renege on the people that you're here to represent. I think that you guys should hold your department heads accountable. I think you should hold study sessions before you approve the budgets and have them present their budgets and their goals line by line, because this board is the one that votes on them, and a lot of times you don't know what's going on line by line in those budgets. Just like Andy saying there were outstanding contracts. Andy should have emailed each one of you the outstanding contracts before you voted on the carryovers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for 6F.
Okay.
Motion to approve item 5F.
6F.
Second.
6F, I'm sorry. 6F, I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, Director Kemp.
How about George?
No, go on.
I defer to you,
Director Kemp
brother.
was
I forgot my question.
Go ahead, Director Kemp.
Go ahead. I'll go next.
I guess if we aren't going to consider solar panels because of contracts that we're already committed to, and we're saying we want to fulfill that, I don't understand why pulling this for a separate vote. If we leave this out in the county's yard, assembled out there in the yard, you do realize how this will reflect upon the city of Fort Smith. I mean, I'm not for how we did this. I wasn't on the board to vote for it. I imagine that's why it probably got pushed into the limelight before I came. But at the same time, it happened. That's politics. Welcome. But I don't understand why we wouldn't assemble them now that we've already spent millions of dollars on this. And then if we're not going to entertain contracts that we've yet to see the deliverables come, this to me, polling it's a moot point. And so we're obligated to finish the job. If not, this is going to look bad on the city of Fort Smith. And it furthermore will infuriate the county. Thank you.
Director Savage.
Jeff, the company that sold us the slides, they were, what was the name?
Whitewater.
Well, let me ask you this. Were they not being sued over patent infringement on that slide design?
I actually have Drew Peterson here with ARM, and he'd be happy to come up and speak.
Yeah,
to us.
I want to look into that a minute.
Drew, do you mind introducing yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, Drew Peterson, General Manager of Parrot Island.
Explain to me the lawsuit, Drew.
So I can go into much. It's just a patent design. They have a different company.
Yeah.
But
they sold us the slide that was in question, right?
Correct. So one slide is part of the patent. Whitewater has agreed to install a newer slide. There'll be a press release later this week from Whitewater. It is a upgraded slide. It's around $200,000 more that you are not paying because of this whole thing. So you're getting a free upgrade of the $200,000 slide due to the patent. Does that?
So to paraphrase this is a 5-slide complex.
Yeah.
4 of the slides will be assembled and hopefully ready to go sometime this summer.
Correct.
The 5th slide will be replaced by a different slide that we will get that we didn't have to pay the upgraded charge for. Whitewater is providing that to us so that we are not installing the one that has the patent infringement lawsuit.
Correct.
But the city is not involved in this lawsuit at all, correct?
No, this is between Whitewater and a different manufacturer of the slides. Nothing with the city of Fort Smith.
It had nothing to do with you all?
No. It's all the contracts are with the city of Fort Smith, nothing with ARM.
Okay, thank you.
Director Christine and then Director Settle.
So the reason I pulled this, one, I have the purview to do that, and I don't appreciate being criticized for using the authority that everybody here uses. You know, I voted against this from the beginning. It was George and I voted against it from the very beginning, and I said we're going to appropriate 2.1, and if the county backs out, what are we going to do? And Carl said it'll die, and I knew that wasn't the case, and I said I'm not voting for it, and don't come back and ask for more money, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm hoping if we don't install these things, maybe that'll motivate us to sell them to another city and put that money back in the general fund. So that's my motivation for that.
Director Settle. No, go ahead and finish.
You know, some of these things, there's just a basic understanding you need to have when you take office. And you know, that is my frustration with some of these questions, is that there's not a basic understanding of this job that you should have if you're going to run for it. Thank you.
I think Director Settle was next in the queue, and then Director.
If the board doesn't mind, I'd ask Drew to kind of answer the question about the contract, if you don't mind, since you're already sitting up here. I appreciate
the CSM contract?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, CSM is not part of Whitewater at all. CSM is a slide installer. There's very few around the world that do this. Not very many people do this. This contract is basically, we use them for every expansion we've had at Parrot Island. They do great work, and they are vetted by Whitewater because they use them for other contracts. They have no connection to each other.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That's all I'm here. Thank you.
But if there's very few, it shouldn't be hard to shop it around. That's my point.
Well, due to the time frame of these slides and installation, a lot of companies, there's maybe two other, if then, decided not to put a quote on it due to they have other contracts around the world. So this is the one contract that can complete time for 25 seasons.
We've reached out to them?
Correct.
Okay.
Director Kemp.
I just moved call to vote.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk.
Directors George Katsavis.
This is on item F, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
No.
Christina Katsavis.
No.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Director Kemp, I think you're right on the fact that we can't just leave them in the ground. But I'm a no.
Rigo.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Kemp.
I will accept responsibility for leadership and say yes. Thank you.
Motion passes 4 in favor and 3 opposed.
Thank you. Okay.
Was that the only other one pulled off? Yeah. So motion to approve the remaining consent decree items?
Okay. Thank you. Okay. If there's no further discussion.
If I may, we do have some others to sign in to speak.
Okay. Okay. I apologize.
Item 6D, Molly Echeverria.
Thank you for the opportunity to address this, and I thank you for Ms. Duster for addressing Oak Cemetery. Just a few things I want to express about that, and I thank you, Ms. Duster, for clarifying the $150,000 that's allocated for Oak Cemetery. I just need to address some of my concerns about the cemetery. I did visit Oak Cemetery on Saturday, and there's a lot of issues with the cemetery that need addressed, including this retaining wall that's being discussed. So while we focus on the prioritized wall, I must also highlight other pressing issues that require our attention. During my recent visit, I walked over by the retaining wall in discussion, and I actually almost twisted my ankle because that area right there by that wall is covered in leaves. ankle deep. And, there were dips along, the ground that are hard to see. And additionally, other walls are in disrepair, which raises safety concerns. There's also a section of the gate on the South Greenwood side where the part of the gate is missing. So, moreover, the larger retaining wall north of the one that we're discussing has serious drainage issues. The drainage system is clogged with rocks and with sediment leading to water backlogs that cause cracks in that wall. If you're familiar with the one I'm referring to, these problems could definitely escalate and create even more significant hazards. Regarding the $150,000 that was addressed, so I appreciate that. I was concerned that this wall, the retaining wall, is only being covered by $75,000. But of course, as she mentioned, it could go over that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Is that it? Okay. Okay. This time we'll entertain a motion to adopt all consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second. 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 There's no further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rigo,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Motion approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. This time we'll go to the officials forum. Nothing from me.
We need to,
We do have the item that was added for Make My Move.
Okay. Okay, I thought we discussed it, but
Can we motion to table it since it's?
Yes.
No, just withdraw. Just withdraw it?
what do you want to do?
You okay to withdraw it?
Yeah, that's fine, since we've already handled it.
Do you want to make the motion to withdraw?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to withdraw.
Second.
Okay. If there's no further discussion on withdrawal, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Director
Yes.
Settle,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rigo,
I would just reiterate what I said earlier, to have Mr. Bufink email us the presentation. Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
George Katsavas,
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
Yes, I think we're saving over $200,000 tonight. Thank you.
Motion passes 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. I have nothing on the mayor's side of the officials forum. We'll start Director Neil Martin.
Just to keep everybody on the board aware, I have my one-on-one with Baker Tilly next Monday. So I'll be meeting with our representative from Baker Tilly. I plan to get information about time spent, all those things, where they've been, specifically what they've been doing in terms of meeting with our staff and development of a 2025 plan. So just making sure that you all and the public are aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. To the board, I'll make an amendment. I made a mistake when I was talking about the water and sewer funds coming back with my amendment in 2 weeks. It's really $1.3 million. The 2.3 is actually out of the 2024 budget. So when we talked about next in 2 weeks, I might going to talk. We did get it okay from legal if we wanted to amend the 2024 budget. I'm considering that. I need to do the math a little bit more before I put that to the board. But in 2 weeks, we'll talk about amending the budget, and it will be $1.3 million to the water and sewer, almost $600,000 back to solid waste, and $222,000 back to streets. So that's kind of what would happen with that vote in 2 weeks. Second thing, I'm going to step in a little bit here. I'd like to have a resolution. I'll go 1st of May, or 1st of April, first meeting in April, requesting that the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and Attorney General Pam Bondi come to Fort Smith and have a discussion with the Board of Directors or their higher ups as high as we can get up in both the EPA and the DOJ. They talked to us about our consent decree. I think you're seeing a lot of changes in Washington, D.C. and what's going on, so I'd like to have a resolution requesting them to come to visit our city and understand how a burdensome consent decree is hurting our public.
Second.
And I'll say the next one. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Director Christina Katsavas.
Well, I would agree with Director Settle on that. I think a lot about the consent decree, and I actually, reread it again over the weekend. And I was thinking about the lady that was here a couple weeks ago talking about eggs and, how expensive they've gotten and the choices she'll have to make with some of these increases. And, it just feels oppressive. It feels oppressive, all the increases. And this is a huge burden on the backs of our citizens, and I just hate to see them living under this oppression. I think we have an opportunity with this administration to get something done and make some headway, and so I hope we can do that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like my resolution to come back to us to be sent out to DOJ, EPA, and then sent to our congressional delegation up in Washington, D.C., both the House and Senate side. Sorry, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Director George.
Yes, sir. Kevin, I tell you, the direct pipeline to Donald Trump is Sarah Huckabee. She worked in his administration, and I've been told she can pick the phone up and get him on the phone.
I 100%, I know that.
So why don't we?
Because I was told to go through.
Politic her.
Oh, we have.
I was told to go through.
Yeah.
That way. That's what I was told.
We through Representative Crawford, Cindy Crawford.
That's right.
In her one-on-one with Governor Sanders.
Yeah.
So the communication that I put together, that Jeff put together, is in her hands. Now, I think there's more that we've got to do with that. I think we need to maybe have some discussions, direct discussions with her, but I think that ball's rolling in that direction.
I'd like to
it's not anywhere close to being done.
Invite her to Fort Smash War in town. What's happening with the consent decree? How people are suffering.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean,
I agree with you.
She'll be in Fort Smith next week. I'm planning to discuss it with her.
well,
then.
thank you. Anyway, I think it's time that we ask the FCRA chairman to come in front of the board again and explain some things. Recently, they just bought back almost $3 million worth of property out at Chaffee, and their board approved it with no appraisal of the property, no idea what the property's worth. Just say, here's $3 million. We want this. We're buying your property back.
They bought $3 million back?
Yes, $3 million of the property back.
Yeah, I will second your motion if you don't mind. And if Jeff would like to have that, and also, if you don't mind, I'd like to invite our other beneficiaries to that meeting also.
Sure. But I'm saying we're a beneficiary.
That seems to go the opposite of what the FCRA is doing, correct? They're supposed to be getting rid of.
Well, that's what the press release was last month. We were getting ready to start closing down, and here they spend $3 million more, which that property comes off the tax rolls down. There's no tax on that property once the FCRA gets it back. Plus, we're losing $3 million in interest in the bank account.
Right. And plus, it pushes the disillusion that much farther down the road.
But, you know,
I think that's the intention.
You know, they have a fiduciary duty to keep the beneficiaries informed in any kind of business decision. So I just want to get Mr. Mann and them up here and let's talk to them and see what's going on. That's all. And you got a second? Did I get a second?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few items. One, in prep for the study session for next week, although I will not be here for that session in person, as I'm in D.C., I did meet with Chris from Hope Campus and Sharon from Next Step, as well as agency leaders, and we went back through the ordinance that did not pass, and I proposed and kind of redlined that and proposed that for the board to review again, a revision. And then obviously from that, it's just a beginning piece similar to Director Rigo's cuts proposals. So I think that it would need to go through legal and all the other hoops. But beginning that, and then also we're going to wanted to get it on the eyes of several other agency leaders. But the idea was to bring that ordinance back with the revisions for us to look at in the study session, and I'll get that to administration. And then also to create a workflow to accommodate it so that it's not just the ordinance that's being brought back for review again, but even a proposed workflow of how best practices go for the enforcement of said ordinance. So I've met with Jeff Dingman today, and I told him I'll get that to him, and then that'll be out there. So I just wanted to lay that there, but I'll just join remote via phone. We'll not be able to be here in person to discuss that. But if the board can look at that, and then if we could get that on in a regular meeting, then we could actually get feedback from the community again and come all back again for reconsiderations. So that's one thing I want to make clear. Mr. Canfield, I know you're here tonight, and I just wanted to take a moment and just see, is there any way, are you aware today of the Supreme Court letting San Francisco discharge more raw sewage into the Pacific Ocean? And is there a thought on that? Have you had a chance to see that release today?
I have not seen the release today. I'll be glad to review it.
Yes, sir. I'd love to let that weigh into the discussion because that was something that was released today. And so I'll make sure that we get that to administration as well. And then just in the spirit of this, Director Settle's comments earlier on this PZD policy change idea, is that something that we can slate for a future discussion?
I think we should, yes.
I mean, I think how many times, I think some sort of idea for it. I understand why it is what it is and the way it is now, but just even coming in as someone who's spoken to the board in the past, I think these things lead to frustration. They lead to very intense meetings that end up being for immaterial because the thing doesn't conceptualize. And I don't know how we can move forward, but I think we need to put that on our agenda at a later date to be discussed.
Put it on study session?
Yes, sir.
Well,
I'll second that.
And I would just vocalize support for that. And I was just going to mention it as I think a topic that we really do need to, in addition to a study session, perhaps, I think it's something we really need to talk about at a strategic meeting and sort of decide how we want to proceed. So I agree with you, Director.
Maybe that's a strategic topic?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
and
do
then
that.
the last thing I'd just say is, this went out to the directors as well, and I'll be going, and on Thursday, we'll actually be meeting with Governor Sanders' senior staff in the first part of the meeting of the day. So I think that there's some progress that can even begin to start there as well. So thank you, Mayor.
Director Good. Director Rego.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to voice my support for the planning meeting idea for Director Settle, and like I said a moment ago, add PZD to that. And then, I left you all a hard copy of the cuts package, the curbing unrestricted taxpayer spending proposal, potentially reprogramming over $7 million towards consent decree work in 2025. And so I just have a request tonight because I want you all to get a chance to review it. I would like to see it, I would request a second for this topic specifically to be on a study session, tail end of March, early April, before the tax vote. That way you all could think and have questions and proposals. The public can comment. Department heads could be available for questions and comments, things like that.
I think the second meeting and a second study session in March is canceled because of spring break. So you're talking about the first study session in April?
Yeah.
That's good. What were you going to say, Andre? I didn't hear you.
I was just saying I agree with that. I'll second it.
Okay.
And thank you all for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dingman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. At the previous meeting, there was discussion on the indoor sports facility, and the board placed on the March 18th meeting the next consideration of an MOU on that project. Ashley has requested that we bump that and move that to the April 1st meeting because she'll be she's got issues with the March 18th date. So that I needed to ask the board to authorize moving that from 3/18 to 4/1.
I make that motion.
I'll second. Yeah, we're good with it.
Thank you. There is.
I need 4 for that.
Oh.
I'll agree to that.
There we go.
I got it.
Okay. This note, I know there's an ordinance regarding the water utilities staff and equipment placed by Directors Rego and Martin on February 11th study session. The request to move that from the April 1st regular meeting to the April 15th regular meeting.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
You need 4 again?
I need 4 again.
I'm okay with that.
There we go.
Thank you. Just a reminder that the March 11th study session, a week from tonight, will include the Citizens Forum, and that meeting will be held at the Elm Grove Community Center. And just remember that there's not Wi-Fi in the building, so download your stuff before you get there. We'll have hotspots some, but not Wi-Fi in the building. And then Sherry and I had talked about doing a special study session or scheduling the mid-year budget review for the mid to late part of July as we lead into the budget season for the 2026 budget. When you do, this was before the message of the strategic planning session, so we likely will do both. I mean, there's need for the strategic planning and goal-setting type of meeting that you just mentioned, but also that's a similar type of meeting directly related to the budget. Now the budget gets proposed. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine with this. That's fine.
So just to have that on your radar in addition to the strategic planning meeting that you.
I mean, I know we're talking about these strategic meetings, but I mean, we've really got to see what water and sewer numbers look like for 24 and for 25. I'd like to get those prior to the audit. I mean, I feel like we need to see it prior to the audit. We want to see how the increase in water rates impacted how it affects the debt service ratio, the debt coverage ratio, whatever. I can't get it right. What's the actual term?
Debt service coverage.
Debt service coverage ratio. Okay. We need that. I mean, I need that. I need to know what that is.
Yes, and it won't be finalized until the audit is finalized. But there will be numbers ahead of that Andy will get to a point where the numbers are reasonably close.
The problem is I can't tie the audit numbers because there's other things that are taken into account. I can't tie the audit numbers to our actuals, and that's what I'm trying to work. Yes. And then, is there anything that we need to do in order to be able to make whatever adjustments, 2024 adjustments? We've got to know that so we can make those decisions.
Well, and that's the reason for scheduling this budget meeting in July, because it also is a mid-year review of our existing budget.
Isn't the audit going to be complete by then?
The audit will be complete June 30th.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking
and
about.
So the idea is to have the audit complete before we have this meeting so that we can start talking about what adjustments we need to make in the 2025 budget.
I'm going to talk about reallocation in 2024 probably in the next week or two.
That's okay, we have to.
We have to, yes.
Right, we have to have that.
This is all related to specifically the 2025 budget, where we are in the middle of the year and where we project to be by the end of the year and what objectives we want to accomplish.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing 2024 potential reallocations based on what Mr. Richards comes up with. Okay. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what we have to do in order to see preliminary numbers, potentially make changes to the 2024 allocations. I don't know what we need to do in order to have those discussions.
Well, I mean, a basis of your question is how soon can we feel solid about the 2024 numbers?
Right.
We won't necessarily feel solid until the auditors have been here and Andy has an idea of what they've looked and seen issues with and need adjustments. But it certainly won't be finalized until we approve the budget.
At that point,
the audit.
At that point, where if they're done, if they're completed, and we're at 106%. We have to make decisions.
Yes.
Or they have to make decisions for us. I'd like to be able to see what we can do before the auditors are here. I mean, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to make some decisions before the auditors start their work.
Well, I feel like Director Martin has requested multiple times, I've requested multiple times to see some of these numbers, and to my knowledge, no one has seen them.
Right. We had preliminary numbers a week or so ago that showed we're at 95%. And we've got to figure out what we can do legally to make that number up. If the answer is we can't, then we're going to have to we have to answer to the citizens on that. So I want to make sure that we figure out what those numbers look like as soon as possible.
You know, this is so critical too, because, you know, the federal government was not in favor of us raising water rates. They wanted us to raise sewer rates. And Carl pushed on with the water rates, you know, very forcefully, but that was not related to the consent decree, the
correct.
Water rates.
Yes, correct.
And so I think that's important for everyone to understand that. You know, I no matter what, I can't justify another water rate increase.
Anything else? Mr. Dingman, you,
No, sir.
okay,
Motion to adjourn.
you
Second.
got it. Thank you.